Hello, let's talk about solving equations using multiplication or division today. So take a look here at the division property of equality. Remember, that just means we're going to be using division to solve these equations. So notice how I wrote an equation with no numbers at all. I want you to, look at the algebra, not just the answer. So let's say I had A times X equals B, and I'm solving for x. So I'm going to circle the x and I bring that wall straight down. Well, this time when you look at what's touching the circle, you see it's a times whatever's in the circle. And the way to destroy multiplication is to use division. So I'm going to divide both sides by a, and so you'll see me divide both sides by a. So now a divided by a gives me that invisible 1 in front of my x, and I drop my x down, and then I drop my equal sign down, and then b divided by a just gives me that fraction, b over a, and I box my answer. Take a look at example 1, solving an equation using division, and they give us negative 7x equals 42. So the first thing I want you to do is write down the equation exactly like they gave it to you, negative 7x equals 42. Then circle your variable and bring that wall down underneath the equal sign. And now look at what's touching the circle. I see the negative 7 and the multiplication symbol. So I do the inverse of multiplication, division. So I divide both sides by the negative 7. And you'll notice I wrote dividing by negative 7 on both sides of the equal sign. And then simplify. A negative 7 divided by negative 7 gives me that invisible positive 1 in front of the x. I drop the x down, I drop the equal sign down, and then 42 divided by negative 7 is negative 6. So I box my answer. Okay, let's take a look at the checkpoint right here. Solve the equation. Now notice how your book wants you to check your solution. I told you it's okay to cross that out, but you must show every step. Okay, I'm sorry, my dog is coming in here. Okay, take a look at number 1. It's 5x equals 45. So copy the equation exactly like it's printed. 5x equals 45. And then circle your variable and bring the wall straight down underneath the equal sign. And now notice how the 5 times is touching the circle. So to destroy multiplying by 5, we divide both sides by 5. And so I divided both sides by 5. And then we simplify. So 5 divided by 5 gives me that giant invisible 1 in front of the x. I let the equal sign drop straight down, and then 45 divided by 5 gives me 9. So I box my answer. Take a look at number 2 here. They gave us negative 56 equals negative 8y. So I copy the equation exactly like it's written. Negative 56 equals negative 8y. And then I circle my variable, I circle my y, and I bring that wall down underneath the equal sign. Notice how the negative 8 times is on the outside of the circle, so that's what I want to destroy. So I divide both sides by negative 8, and I'll do that on both sides of the wall, and then simplify. So negative 56 divided by negative 8 gives me positive 7. I let the equal sign drop straight down. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 gives me a giant invisible 1 in front of the y, and then I drop the y straight down. So my solution would be y equals 7, and I box my answer. Okay, let's talk about the multiplication property of equality. Now remember, that means we're going to be using multiplication to solve these equations. So take a look at this equation. I want to focus on the algebra so that you don't get stuck on the numbers. If we had x over a equals b, how would we solve for x? Well, let's copy it over here. So x over a equals b. Now we want to start off doing the same thing. Circle the variables, circle what you're trying to solve for, and then bring that wall down underneath the equal sign. Now this time I want you to notice how dividing by a is touching that circle. So the inverse operation of dividing by a is to multiply by a on both sides of the wall. Okay, so you'll see me multiply by a on the left-hand side, multiply by a on the right-hand side of the equation. But now I want you to notice how I crossed out these a's. Remember, with fractions, anytime you had a numerator and a denominator that were the same, they would cancel each other out, because a divided by a leaves you that giant invisible 1. Okay, so that's how we get that invisible 1 in front of the x this time. And then drop the equal sign down, and then b times a we would just write as b times a, and we would box our answer. Okay, let's take a look at example 2. They gave us 5 equals w over 11. So I copied 5 equals w over 11. Now I circled my variable, and I bring the wall down underneath the equal sign. And then take a look at what's touching the circle. It's dividing by 11, so we're going to do the inverse. We multiply by 11 on both sides of the equal sign. Now over here, it's important that you see what happens. Multiplying by 11 means these 11s will cancel each other out to make that giant invisible 1 that we want in front of the variable. And then of course 11 times 5 gives us 55. So bring down the equal sign, bring down the w, and then just box your answer. Okay, so let's go over the checkpoint here. It says solve the equation. Now remember, show every step. That's very important. So take a look at number 3. We have m over 4 equals 11. So the first thing I did is I wrote it, m over 4 equals 11. And then circle your variable, bring the wall down underneath the equal sign. It's really important that you look at what's touching the circle. This time I see dividing by 4 is touching the circle. So the inverse of dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. So I write multiplying by 4 on the left-hand side and multiplying by 4 on the right-hand side of the equation. And now notice what happens over here by the circle. The 4's cancel to create that giant negative, the invisible 1, it's a positive 1, in front of the m. And then bring down the m, bring down the equal sign, and 11 times 4, of course, gives us 44. So box your answer, m equals 44. Take a look at number 4 here. We have negative 9 equals c over 6. So copy the equation, negative 9 equals c over 6. And then circle the variable and bring the wall down underneath the equal sign. And now look at what's touching the circle. It's dividing by 6. So the inverse of dividing by 6 is to multiply by 6. Whatever we do on the left-hand side of the equal sign, we have to go over here and do the same thing on the right-hand side of the equal sign. And then we just simplify. 6 times negative 9 gives us negative 54. We bring our equal sign down. The 6 cancels this 6 out, so cross them out. That's what creates that giant invisible positive 1 right here. And then let the c come down. So c equals negative 54, and you box your answer.